Are we okay? Yeah, right. Right, then welcome everybody to this meeting of the Performance Scrutiny Committee, which is being held on Thursday, the 14th of July. The meeting is being webcast with the exception of any business that the committee resolves to exclude the press and public for because of the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined by the Local Government Act of 1972. The meeting is being held as a hybrid meeting. There are committee members here in Council Chamber in County Hall, and there are also others attending remotely via video conference. For transparency purposes, I will ask Rhiannon, the scrutiny coordinator, to identify which committee members are in attendance and whether they are attending in person or remotely.
Okay, thank you very much. Attending remotely, we've got Councillor Gareth Sandilands, Councillor Ellie Chard, Councillor Jonathan Harland. I think that's it remotely. And also we've got Kathleen Jones. She joined yet? Not yet. Oh, we may have Kathleen Jones, one of the co-opted members for education, joining remotely as well. Here in the chamber, we've got Councillor Hugh Irving, the chair, Councillor Paul Keddy, Councillor Carolyn Holiday, and Councillor Terry Mendes, and co-opted member Neil Roberts for the education items.
If we can now then go to apologies, please. Apologies first. Have we any apologies?
I've got apologies from Councillor Alan Hughes and also from Terry Flanagan, the co-opted member, parent governor, primary sector. I haven't heard from Geraint Lloyd-Williams, so I presume also that he would probably be tendering his apologies. Right. Okay. Thank you. Item 2, are there any declarations of interest? I can start that off by... Oh, sorry, before I move to that, Rhiannon's got something to deal with for us. Just for clarity, members will be aware of the requirement under the Council's Code of Conduct to declare any personal or prejudicial interests in respect of any business to be considered at today's meetings. Such interest should be declared now or as soon as the councillor affected becomes aware that they have a personal or prejudicial interest in today's business. That's the same as well for the co-opted members. All members declaring an interest are required to state clearly what the interest is and to advise whether it's a personal interest or a personal and prejudicial interest as defined in the Code of Conduct. Any member declaring a prejudicial interest is required to leave the meeting for the duration of the business and can take no part in the proceedings. Members with a personal interest only may take part in the debate and any vote. If a personal and prejudicial interest is declared today that has not previously been disclosed and recorded, the councillor concerned will be required to complete and sign a declaration of interest form, which is available from the committee support staff in attendance today. Thank you. Right, can I take you then first? We've done apologies. So would anybody wish to declare an interest? I can start that off by saying personal interest, Prestatyn High School governor. Are there any other in the room first?
Yeah, Carol Holiday, Cloud Offer, governor, town council governor.
Personal interest, Neil Roberts, governor of the School Park, Denby.
Thank you. And remotely?
Shall I go first?
Oh, go on then. Ladies first.
Yeah, thank you, Gareth. Ysgol Timor for governor, plus I'm the chair of the SACRA, so I thought I'd say that as well, just to cover myself. Okay.
Okay, Councillor Gareth Sandilands. I've been a local education authority governor, LEA governor, the last so many years to Ysgol Cloud Offer in Prestatyn. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other declarations of interest? No.
Just for clarity, they're all personal interests, aren't they?
So that doesn't exclude you from. Item 3, urgent matters as agreed by the chair. Do we? I haven't had anything. Have you got anything?
No, I haven't had any either.
Right. Thank you. Item 4 then on page 7 is the minutes of the previous meeting. I'll go through them firstly for accuracy. I'll do it by the page, if that's all right. items 1 and 2, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, and page 10. And going back, are there any matters arising from those minutes, please, members? So take it, everybody's happy with in favour of those minutes. Is that okay? That's proposed by Paul. Is there a seconder? And Ellie seconded.
Yeah.
Anybody against that, them being adopted? No, that's fine. That's great. Thank you. Right, we'll move now to page 13, item 5, which is the curriculum for Wales. We're joined for that item by the lead member for education, Councillor Jill German, to Geraint Davis, the head of education. And I think he's accompanied by Mr. James Brown, that's correct, isn't it? And Jackie Chan from Gway. Maya Herbert from Gway, is she? No. She's not attending in at all. No, fine. So who's introducing that report, please? Thank you, Jill.
So I'm introducing the report today as lead member for education, children and families. So the report today is to look at progress made with the implementation of the curriculum for Wales and offer that up for scrutiny by the Performance Committee. So back in 2015, there was a report written called Successful Futures by Professor Graham Donaldson, and that was an independent review of curriculum and assessment arrangements in Wales, commissioned by Welsh Government, and that's formed the basis of a new curriculum that has been worked on in the time since. It's a very different type of curriculum, very much skill-based and much less prescriptive than previous guises, and schools are able to shape the curriculum around their learners. It's a real area of interest for me. In my previous guise as a teacher and a curriculum leader at Denbighshire Primary School, I took on the draft document at the very start and was handed it to see what we could do with it and go through the process of bringing it to life. So I'm really interested in this progress report and to be part of the journey now as lead member. It's a real privilege. So the curriculum for Wales will be statutory in all Welsh primaries by September 2022 and in all secondaries by September 2023, with an option of starting in 2022 for secondaries should the school feel ready. But the other schools will still be working towards it, but in a transition period ready for 2023. The report's been produced in partnership with GWER, the Regional Schools Improvement Consortium for the 6 North Wales local authorities, and GWER are supporting schools with the implementation of the new curriculum. So I'll hand over to Geraint Davis as Head of Education to introduce the report to the committee.
Thank you, Councillor German. As I don't intend to go through the report verbatim because I'm sure you've read it, but I'll just pick out a few of the highlights. I think the important thing is we were here about 12 months ago, obviously with a different scrutiny committee, and then this is an update and a sort of a progress report on where we've reached during the last 12 months. I think the important thing is next September, which is the implementation date for all primary schools in Wales, and we do have one secondary school that will be implementing the new curriculum in September, with the others implementing it and sort of opting to join for years 7 and 8 in 2023. That's the start of a journey. It's not the end of the journey. So that's a key point. All the preparation has been going ahead, working in conjunction very, very closely with our regional partners in GWER, who are leading on the implementation of the new curriculum. But it is the start rather than the end of the journey. As Jill mentioned, it is a very different curriculum. We're all the 4 of us here. We're all teachers in essence. If you cut us in half like a stick of rock, it would be teacher on the inside rather than head of service or counsellor or whatever. So it is a very, very different curriculum to the one that we're used to, and the one possibly that, you know, some of you are aware of. It's not prescriptive, but it does give a clear structure and a lot of the sort of the components to make sure that our 16,500 or so students in Denbighshire become ambitious, capable. We want them to be enterprising, creative, healthy, confident, and, you know, ethically informed. That is the intention of this curriculum. And, you know, obviously there's a lot of preparation been going on. Firstly, it was with the senior leaders in the school. And then over time, as the senior leaders became more sort of ready for the implementation, it has gone to middle leaders and teachers. You know, the planning, the preparation, the training, and working with them. You will see that there are a few changes later on, paragraph 4.12 in the report around the relationships and sexuality education, which is now a statutory requirement of the curriculum for Wales, that will be starting in September 2022, and it is mandatory now for learners aged 3 to 16. And there's a lot of work that James Brown has been working on and leading on with regards to that element of the new curriculum. And also, Councillor Chard, she mentioned that she was the chair of SACRA. SACRA is the Standing Advisory Council for Religious Education, and the religion, values and ethics is a statutory requirement, again, of the curriculum for Wales, and it is mandatory for learners aged 3 to 16. But unlike other areas of the curriculum, RVE, religion, value and ethics, is determined locally. It is a local decision, not a national decision, as the rest of the curriculum is. And it is SACRA, which Councillor Shad chairs, that is where the agreed syllabus for religion, values and ethics is agreed. And there has been, you know, there's been numerous meetings to discuss that. You know, that has progressed as you would expect. That's just a very, very brief outline of a massive piece of work, and to try and make justice of the amount of work that's gone on in sort of 10 minutes or so is impossible. And, you know, all the, you know, the 2,500 staff or so in schools and the regional service and the central service, there's a huge amount of work gone on, and, you know, it is a thing to be welcomed. It is great, and it is going to give the pupils and students in Denbighshire, you know, an excellent start in life, which is why we're all here, basically. So I'm happy with colleagues to answer any questions that you may have.
Good to see you here in force. I'm sure members have had a huge amount of nighttime reading here, or early morning reading in one case, I've discovered this morning. I'm going to throw it open now, but I'm going to kick this off by saying, if I was a pupil in Prestatyn High School, when I go to school in September 2023, what will be the difference? What will I notice as opposed to when I finish term at the end of July?
Maybe I'm quite lucky. I am primary, as is Jill here. We are primary trained. However, we know James is a you know, secondary specialist in the team, and obviously, you know, Jackie has the
Yes, you can. Student, what's going to be the light bulb moment? What's going to be different?
Okay, thank you. Each of the schools will take a slightly different approach, or quite a very different approach to delivering it. So Prestatyn could deliver something very differently to Brill High, which could look very different to Denbigh. So in terms of specifically answering your question, that would be something just for Prestatyn to be able to describe. But what we're seeing a lot of schools looking at is a much more thematic approach instead of the individual subjects. So perhaps instead of doing 11, 12 subjects, they could be looking at topics in themes. And instead of learning quite so much content, they'll be learning the skills, which is how they do things. So that would be a big change, I think, from September 2023.
So if I was expected to have maths at 10 a.m. on Tuesday in room whatever, is that still going to happen?
You may do, but you may also do much more maths in other subjects across the curriculum as well, rather than just in maths.
But what about when you come to the later part of your school career and now you've got to take exams, A levels, GCSE, whatever? How is it going to impact? It's going to be different form of questions, is it?
There will be different questions that come through. There has been a consultation this year on the GCSE qualifications. So we haven't seen exactly what those qualifications will look like yet, because they won't come through until later in the journey that Geraint referred to. But we're still expecting that there will be a qualification in maths and numeracy. There will still be science qualifications. So in that way, the qualifications will remain, but they will be different because of the focus that's going through the curriculum for Wales.
But there'll still be GCSEs or their equivalent.
Yes.
To sit in the formal way, will there?
Yes.
Yeah. And there'll still be a result at the end of the day.
Yes.
You can go on your CV or
yes,
university
that's our
application.
understanding, that there will still be GCSEs and there will still be A levels.
Okay. Now I'm going to sell this up to the members. Shall I stay in? All right, Gareth jumped in first. Come in, Gareth.
Thank you, Chair. I'm obviously a member of the Cloud Offer governing body and have been for some years. And I know Mr. Edwards and Miss Davenport there have done some serious preparation and are actually looking forward to doing something different and more adventurous, dare I say it. But this new curriculum, it moves away from target-driven grading. It's directly concerned with what this committee is all about. We're related to performance-related matters and results. This is what we're set up to do. So how do you suggest this committee in future looks at measuring essentially the success and failure of the curriculum and how we support it indeed fulfilling its best potential? And can I ask that question for both Geraint and Jackie, who has also been in Cloud Offer and has offered some amazing support over the years. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, you are right that historically that we used to bring a report to this committee well twice a year with regards to results, and it was very much results driven on the GCSE results, A-level results, and the key stage assessments, and that that level of comparison between different cohorts, different year groups, where we would be comparing results, our Denbighshire results with national results as well. That is changing. There will be less focus on having that level of results. So the way we present future reports to this committee as a performance scrutiny will be very different, and it is something that nationally and locally across the north is something that is being is a point of discussion at the moment, because it's not going to look how it's looked in the past. Jackie, anything?
Yeah, if I could just add that with assessment and progression, the whole focus has changed to make it fairer for the children. So instead of children like previously being expected to reach a certain level by a certain age group, so when they were in year 6, every average child was expected to reach level 4, regardless of your ability. What this new curriculum is allowing children and teachers to do is to be able to measure the individual's progress from their starting point. And so reporting back to this committee here on standards overall is going to be tricky. There's no doubt about that. But, you know, schools we're going to have to adapt their current procedures. They will still be able to use standardized testing, you know, to guide them. But the previous benchmark, so the standards, the levels, they're not there. You know, there is nothing to measure those children against as a benchmark, which is why it's very, very important that schools have that deep, in-depth conversation within a school about progress. What does that look like in our school and how do we measure it? But again, looking wider, so looking to work with the cluster on what progress looks like in our area for our curriculum. And so that's what reports that you will be having is our children making appropriate progress against their curriculum. What that looks like, schools are still working on it, because it's going to look very different in different schools as it meets the requirements of their own curriculum.
Okay, thank you very much. I will have another question later, but I'll let other people say something first. Thank you.
John's waiting to come in. John Harlan.
Just before we get John in, just for members to be aware, please can I ask you not to use the chat function on Zoom, because not everybody in the room here will see it. I know Kathleen Jones has just put something there, so Kathleen may want to come back on that later. And also, can I ask members to leave your cameras on if we just need to see who is exactly in the meeting. If at any point, you know, you're speaking, we may ask you to put your camera off while you're speaking, just so we can get you clearer. But otherwise, can I ask you just to put your cameras on? Thank you.
Thank you. John, I think you're waiting.
Yeah, thank you, Hugh. When I was 16, just going back to a long time ago in school, all the examinations were done at once, and I found the pressure personally absolutely unbearable at that time of my life. And now I know that examinations recently, because I've got a 14-year-old in Prestat in high school, in my opinion, are much better. They're spread out. In some cases, they're taken the year before that I would have taken them, not at 16, at 15, and so on. I think that's great. Maybe Geraint or James perhaps can tell me whether there's any further extension of the spreading out of examination dates, so that maybe they're only taking one individual examination in a week or something like that when the time comes, you know, to the big examinations.
Yeah,
thank you.
You know, as a you know, on a personal level, as somebody with a 16-year-old who has just finished you know, the weeks of the GCSE exams, and a 17-year-old with the AS, you know, I fully understand the you know, the pressures that this sort of period puts on young people. And you know, it is something that you know, as James alluded to, there has been a consultation on assessments and examinations, what have you, recently. And you know, obviously it is something that from a well-being point of view, you know, we are in the process of embedding a whole school approach to mental health and well-being, which is a key driver for us in education, especially considering, you know, the 2 years, 2.5 years of, you know, difficult times that young people have had. And, you know, being aware and, you know, taking account of the pressures on young people during this time is something that is key. And, you know, it is something that we are working and will be working, obviously, with, you know, with the examination bodies and Welsh Government as well. It is something that is being discussed. And, you know, obviously we can play our part in sort of pushing that agenda as well.
Are you happy with the response, John?
No, thanks, Geraint. Yeah, that's great. So there's no intention to on the part of the boards or whatever to revert to an older time, so to speak.
Okay. Jill?
Not that I'm aware of, John. I just wanted to come in on your point, really, that one of the reasons why we're looking at the curriculum in Wales again is absolutely because of stories like yours, as far as, you know, pressures of the traditional model. You know, we do it like this because we always have done. So as Geraint said earlier, it is quite an exciting time, and it's a time to listen to people to say what their experiences have been previously, and also to see, you know, how we can actually measure the very best of our children in all the different ways that they exist, and all the different ways that they learn, and all the different ways, all the different points that they show progress. So, you know, it may not be at the end of year 6, it might be halfway through year 7, but, you know, that this model itself is being produced to you know, to listen to what people need, and be responsive to the needs of children in Wales as they are now, and not in the 1960s or 70s. So I just wanted to come in with that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you,
Oh,
Chair.
sorry, I've missed Ellie. I'll come back to you, Ellie. It's all right.
Thank you, Chair. I'm sure this is going to have a financial cost, because everything does change. Will they make sure that there's adequate money in the budget to roll this out properly, and to make sure that there's adequate funds for any pupil that is struggling, or any ALL a student that needs sort of extra support, and that, or, you know, just, that's my question.
Yeah, obviously everything costs money. There's nothing free in life, is there? And you know, the point about the ALN and the funding around children with additional learning needs, I won't go on to that now, because that is the next agenda point, looking at the additional learning needs transformation, which, you know, we'll come to there's a segment on the budget on that. But from a curriculum delivery point of view, yes, there has been funding. There's been additional grant funding for schools, and, you know, there has been schools have received, you know, as an impact of COVID as well, there has been a significant amount of funding provided to schools for various reasons, because with every grant funding, there are terms of that grant. You know, you can only spend it on certain things that are in the terms of reference for that pot of money, for that budget. But you know, at the moment there are funding streams that have supported schools in the preparation to be able to sort of deliver and work with Welsh Government, work with the regional service to sort of deliver and prepare for this new curriculum. Whether, you know, how long into the future, or, you know, any funding continues, that's a question that, you know, without a crystal ball, unfortunately, I can't predict that. But, you know, at the moment, schools you know, have been able to respond without having a massive negative financial impact on them.
Ellie, can you hear me? You're on mute, I think, Ellie.
Yeah, I couldn't hear you before, but I can hear you now. My question is to James, and I know, James, thank you very much for all the help you gave to the SACRA committee. But basically, I just want to ask James to explain the religious, what else is there? Values and ethics subject is embedded in humanities, but I would imagine, Geraint and James, you could probably include it in what I used to call in primary school a sums lesson, because I'm sure you could. But I was quite fascinated on the SACRA, learning about the fact that you could have a geography lesson and you could bring in a little bit of, well, you could bring in a Christianity story in, etc. But it's fascinating, and I'm looking forward to hearing reports in the next 12 months Yeah, right. Okay. But really, my question is just to James, just to explain about the value of the RE in all the lessons.
Thank you. Yeah, as you know, the new religion, value and ethics subject is different from the previous subject, and that there tended to be quite a focus on on the world religions. And in the new RVE, there is a move to a more pluralistic approach where we look at far more belief systems rather than just the religions. But there are also areas, and we could take an example such as science, where you perhaps wouldn't normally think of as being an RE topic. But of course, in science, we do teach things like wonder and awe. And that is something that we could pull out of the new RVE guidance. So yes, there are opportunities for many different subjects across the curriculum to be able to deliver part of the new RVE curriculum.
Thank you, James. It makes it easier for everybody else to know how it's embedded. So thank you for that.
Okay, I was waiting to speak again, holding him back because some people haven't spoken at all. Terry.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. A question to basically all four of you. Garrett, you said about you moving away from grades, results, assessment, and then James, you said that each school will be free to deviate, if that's the right word, and implement this program in their own way. Then we come, and then the chair mentioned the subject of grade. So they will say that 3 different schools are doing their 3 different flavors on the program, and then they come together for exams. How will that affect the GCSEs or whatever qualifications they get? And how, Jackie, how do you gauge someone's development if you don't look at the end result, which is A+, A-, whatever? Because as an employer, and Jill, you said you listen to what people need. As an employer, I want to look at that end result. And if we're having different schools doing different things, you know, how is that best served?
Well, initially, maybe I misled you a little bit, saying that there is no commonality in the curriculum. There is a commonality. There is a set of very high level 27. Well, there are progression steps, but there are also 27 areas which guide the curriculum, and so everybody's curriculum will be based on these areas, and all of the learning will come from those areas. But where it looks different is that schools are given the autonomy to say what that looks like and to say how they're going to teach it. So they might have a common skill across a region, across a cluster, but they might teach it very, very differently. But because the skills are the foundations of everything, so if you know the skill, you can apply it to the knowledge. When you come to be tested on how you do things, they would be more likely to be tested on the skill of the thing rather than particularly content knowledge until they get to GCSE level. Does that make sense? I don't think I've explained it particularly well, but you know.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Neil.
Just to support what James was saying there, because give you an example, in the St. Asaph Diocese, 4 Welsh medium church schools have been meeting during the spring and summer term. Schools of varying sizes from 18 pupils to up to 100 pupils, and they're working together to see how they could plan together for RE in schools, funded by grants from the Church in Wales. They began by studying the sub-lenses and linked to the descriptions of learning, and looking at resources and requirements that are needed, and also giving planning activities that can be focused on the sub-lenses as well. And they found that these activities have been joining together has impacted greatly on the understanding of the curriculum. So it's been a very positive outcome for the summer term. That's just to support what you were going to say. No questions, I'm afraid.
Julie, yes, please.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to come in sort of behind Jackie's point, really. As Geraint said, I come from the primary sector, and the way of working that the new curriculum offers is actually very like the primary model. So, for example, I would teach year 2 children year upon year, and I would teach them the same skills. They would be following the same progress steps as far as what they need to achieve through the year, but I might do it through a different topic. So one year I might do food, and then the next year I might do our world, or our living things, or something along those lines, but the skills would be the same. So it would still be, say, understanding natural processes, but you'd look at it through different topics. And I think this model is very much like that. And there's in the appendices as well, there is a really useful illustration of how these things work that show the different progression steps. So there's progression steps that children, we look for children to meet right from the word go when they're 3 years old. But the difference with this curriculum is that it goes right through to the end of schooling. So there's a much more cohesive journey, if you like. What's happened previously is that you'd have one curriculum up to 7, and then it would skip to another curriculum to Key Stage 2, and then you go into Key Stage 3, and then each bit of the curriculum would operate in a slightly different way. And as far as progression's concerned, that was a bit of a barrier, really, because you almost felt like you were starting again with a new model, whereas this takes us right through with the same thing. As far as the grades at the end are concerned, I expect that not to be very different, and be in line with the whole journey, really, that it reflects what skills those young people can demonstrate, and the knowledge they can demonstrate that will still end up in a final grade. But I think it's the journey up there that's very different. I still think there'll be benchmarks for employers. And of course, we've got the issue that, we don't exist in isolation in Wales as well. We're going to be alongside the other countries of the United Kingdom. So although we are early on in the assessment journey, I do understand that that is being looked at, that we have to be comparable, and we have to be able to be something that people out in the world can understand. So I don't know if that helps from a slightly different perspective.
Gareth, I think, is waiting with a follow-up.
Yeah, sorry, it's just going back to what a few people have said already, and perhaps getting a more extensive reply. What external and internal partnerships and collaborations are we supporting? We're very much, one of the aims of a school is to give them a better career, as well as this is also giving better life skills in general, and being able to deal with life after school. But also a big is, are we matching up to what jobs are out there, and what high paid, high developed jobs? Is that going to be matched up with a curriculum? Have we looked at teaching the needs of the general employer market, such as looking at what the FSB, the CBI, the building industry have a standard? It's a meeting with them, but internally it's about how we're using clusters. And now I had a very good conversation in the last governing body about what clusters have emerged to be. They were very competitive, and people wanted to keep the schools within themselves. But now they've turned into where peer-to-peer reviews are welcome. People are welcome, the other head teachers visiting the other head teachers, and they're learning excellence. Their pride is going up, and they're being much more friendly towards each other. But these clusters also are restricted. What about outside the clusters, all the different clusters within the county? So south to north to middle, there seems to be some sort of best practice sharing there that's needed at the moment. So we're at a level playing field across Denbighshire for sharing good practice. I just thought I'd open that thoughts to Geraint and where you see the future of that, both of those elements, both internal and external. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. With regards to external and internal partnerships, I would agree 100% that that is key to the success of everything that we do. The sharing of good practice, I do think that is essential in the world that we live in, and I think there are elements, because there are some positives that coming out of COVID. It is something that I think that was developed through sort of the IT side of things, of sharing good practice during that period because physical face-to-face meetings wasn't possible. I would agree that clusters are working closely together. And I know I'll bring Jackie in a minute from the, the work that on developing the new curriculum that has happened at various levels, be it sort of locally in our clusters and wider than just the cluster and wider than just Denbighshire. We're fortunate that GWE have a relationship as well with Professor Donaldson himself, who was the architect of the new curriculum and has been it's in your, I don't know which, appendix 4 in your pack, a number of think pieces, that there's quite a bit of reading there for you. Think pieces with regards to the sharing and creating better life skills. I'll bring Jackie in because I know she's been very involved in the partnership working, external and internal, I know, with regards to developing this curriculum for us.
Thank you. I'd just like to say, first of all, that I can understand where this question is coming from, because the cluster that Cloud Offer is with, they are very proactive in developing that cluster working and developing that peer-to-peer working. But also, because I do work with the whole cluster as well, as I know that they are very much involved with working with schools other than their own cluster. But in terms of them seeing good practice and us sharing good practice, Appendix 2 that you've had with your report is a collection of curriculum design models which have come from different schools across the region, where we're sharing their good practice, not as a template for schools to have to use, but as a template for them to look at, to maybe gain ideas from, so that can guide them in their thinking. But also in terms of sharing good practice and working with other schools other than their own cluster, we've had, I think it's 10 sessions now through the regional networks where schools were invited to put teachers forward to represent certain areas of learning. So any one of the 6 areas of learning, plus assessment, plus the curriculum design. And we've had, there is a sheet there, which is I think it's Appendix 4, which shows the engagement overview. But we've had lots of teachers who have been involved in those networks at a regional level, where they've worked with Professor Donaldson on 10 different occasions to talk about the curriculum. And as Gareth said, Professor Donaldson, who is the co-author of those think pieces, was instrumental in developing the discussions around those regional networks. What happened then after the regional network is that the representative from the local cluster then replicated that information down to individual schools in the local meetings. So the sharing of good practice, not only from the actual regional meeting itself, but from the experience from other schools from across the region as well. So there is a lot of opportunity for schools to be sharing practice other than the immediate kind of local area to them.
Thanks for that reply. It was very useful. Cheers.
Okay, Kathleen Jones, were you wanting to come in with something? I think you might be on mute. There we go.
Sorry, Kathy, I think you're on mute.
Right, is that better? I didn't want to cut across Gareth, but because I represent the Catholic diocese, I'd looked into the religion side of it when you were speaking about Sacra, and I just wanted to add this piece of information without disrupting the meeting. That's why I put it on chat. It was just to say that the Catholic school, of which there is only, well, one in Denbighshire, they use a religious scheme called 1010, and they've had funding from the Welsh Government in order to train all the teachers throughout Wales. And it's going to train the staff over 2 years, and it's compatible with the curriculum for Wales. So I just wanted to add that onto the SACRIS section. So I didn't want to interrupt the meeting, so I just wanted it for information.
Thank you. That's a valuable contribution. I know we're going a little bit over our allotted time now. Have all the members asked what they wanted to ask? Haven't missed anybody out. Thank you very much. So really, this brings us then to the recommendations. So really, I just want to close down the questioning, if you like, or finish it off. I take it this is an ongoing process. It's not going to start on a given date and that's it. So we will need to know as a performance scrutiny committee what's going on and how it's developing. So what is the plan to update us, and what will success look like, please?
From a, you know, as I said right at the beginning, this is the start of the journey, really. You know, next September, it's the start, not the end. So, you know, from a committee point of view, should the request come in, so should you want it in, you know, say we were here 12 months ago, you know, say in another 12 months, we will be able to tell you how implementation has gone, because we'll be 12 months in. So, you know, any concerns, any issues, any stumbling blocks that we've overcome during that journey, we will be able to feedback on. And also we will have a sort of lessons learned as well, because we will, you know, we will be in a position where we can tell you, you know, the one secondary and all primaries have implemented it in 2020, September 22, and the remaining secondaries will be implementing it the following September. So, you know, we would be in a position to be able to feedback on how it's gone and what success looks like.
That's what I was looking for. So what we're saying is we're dialing in about 12 months about now, when you'll be able to update the group on how it's gone, what areas of concern there are, and what we'd like to hope we'll be hearing how well it's going, but you know, fine. Questions? Fine, yep. So right, in that case, I'm going to take you to the recommendations. Yeah, so scrutiny members are invited to discuss the details of the report and comment accordingly. I think you've commented very, very well and in detail. So is there a mover for that, please?
I'll move.
Ellie, and second is Paul. Yeah, thank you. Update in 12 months' time, please. Yes, and we've noted the questions that have been asked today. Right, all in favour of that, please. Very good. But that's the resolution for today. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming in. It's good to hear it. Good to have a little bit of light on what's happening, and we'll look forward to hearing from you in the future. Thank you. Right, thank you. Right, so we're now going to move to item 6 on page 63, please, for everybody concerned with that. We are, and again, it's lead member again and Geraint again. Are you being joined by anybody? No, online now.
Yeah, we've got Mary Gaskell and James Earl joining.
Right. Oh yes.
Oh,
fine.
Joe Earl, sorry.
Joe, yeah. Can see. Fine, can see them now. Thank you for coming in, everybody. So item 6 then, lead member.
Hello, yeah, me again. So I'm going to introduce this report. So this is the Additional Learning Needs Transformation Report to offer an update on the progress made to the Scrutiny Committee, the progress made by the local authority and schools in partnership towards meeting the statutory requirements of the new ALN and Educational Tribunal Wales Act 2018. This replaces the previous Special Educational Needs Code of Practice from 2022, and additional learning needs is now used as an overarching term to replace the SEN, Special Educational needs and learning disability, and the varied language that has been used up till now. There's one broad term now, additional learning needs, and the range of plans that have existed for the different guises of terms will be replaced by one single plan called the individual development plan. So it's really bringing this system together to be much more cohesive. The Act seeks to place child and family much more at the heart of the process, and both in deciding upon and delivering appropriate provision. And it's really good again for me to update on this, as this is something I've also worked on professionally, and I know that I know the hard work that goes on from teachers in Denbighshire to make sure that every child has their needs met in the best possible way. So I really welcome this Act. So I'll hand over to Geraint to update the members on the progress made and speak on the report. Thank you.
Again. Yeah, as once again, I won't go through the report paragraph by paragraph, but just to give committee the assurances that one of the constant things in education is that everything changes often. So as you'll see, we changes in curriculum. There's massive, huge changes with regards to ALN. We're looking at well-being and embedding a whole school approach. There's the assessments. There's a new school improvement framework that was published a couple of weeks ago. So there's lots of changes, but the changes to ALN, it is as Jill alluded to, it is a key piece of legislation, is a key document to make sure that the needs. There are about 16,500 pupils at any one point in Denbighshire, and we need to meet the needs of all of those pupils, regardless of any additional learning needs or requirements that they have. So from a progress point of view, because obviously a paper came to committee about 12 months ago again, a lot of work has gone on around training. We have been working closely with the School Budget Forum to make sure that funding is delegated to schools, and it is agreed through the forum, which is made up of elected members and head teachers and a few officers in the majority. We have worked regionally regionally, although Gwynedd and Anglesey are not part of the collaboration, it is Wrexham, Flintshire, Denbighshire and Conwy on a new IT system that will pull everything together and incorporate all the new ALN processes that are needed to follow. So that is called Eclipse, and that it's a sort of a cloud-based workflow solution to bring everything together and make sure that all the information is available to everybody that needs it, and it gives alerts as to when deadlines and actions need to be carried out. So there is there's a huge amount of work that Mary and Joe have been leading on. And we were very, very pleased that in February of this year, so not that long ago, about 5 months ago, that internal audit did conduct an audit of the additional learning needs implementation. And it was a very thorough audit, as you would expect. And the outcome of the audit, they interviewed head teachers, they went all out, and it was an excellent report. And their outcome following the audit of looking at the implementation was to give it a high assurance. So a high assurance, as you know, is that the risks and the controls are managed and objectives are being achieved. So that is a very recent audit report that sort of backs up the comments and the things that you will have read in the report. So I won't take any more any more of your time, but we're happy between the four of us again to field any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Gareth. Right, members, I noticed Gareth, I think his hand went up first.
Sorry, I wondered where it had disappeared. Thank you very much again for attending. Will this increase our predicted numbers because of the new grading or decrease it? What is our predicted number? Because I've looked everywhere and I can't find it anywhere on the report, so excuse me for being ignorant. And how are we going to engage with third parties, such as support groups and external support groups? Because I know there's one or two in Prestatyn that support ALN provision, or trying to find ALN provision between them and between peer groups. And finally, this is a plug for Joseph really tonight for his session, because he's given governor training. Will there be ongoing continuous support and for learning about this developing subject? Because I think teachers and governing bodies are two really important things we have to engage on a constant basis, because this might constantly change and develop throughout the year, the school year. And also appealing to parents as well, and what ALN actually means, you know, because I think there's some sort of prescriptive that, oh, if they're doing, the child is this, that they've automatically got to have ALN. So I'd like some basic knowledge, but the numbers, the predicted number would be good. Thank you.
Mary or Joe, which one of you are best to respond to that? Who wants to start?
Can I just clarify, Gareth, are you meaning sort of predicted numbers of children with identified as having ALN?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. So what we've done, it's actually the Eclipse system. We can drive off reports, because obviously schools, if the majority of ALN considerations and IDPs that are given are school-based, which we don't get involved in as a local authority at all. So in order to be able to track that, we are going to be able to, I don't think we have done yet managed to do it. The system is brand new. So we have got it set up that we can actually run off a report, Gareth, that outlines how many school IDPs and things. So we've got a track of that. And obviously we use the same Eclipse system for the local authority one, so we can then sort of work out. We're not predicting in terms of that for it to be much different. There may be some increase in numbers in terms of at a universal targeted level, particularly because of COVID coming back. But in terms of the consideration processes, but actually to meet the threshold of ALN, you know, requires ALP, and the local authority and schools have sort of come to a consensus that that is a sort of sustained level of support over time. Or requiring sort of a sort of specialist placement. So it's looking at, even though this is all about the ALN transformation, a huge part of this is actually the inclusion aspect as well. It's all of the graduated response that comes into place before that. Sorry, what the other things, Joe? I think one of them was. So
you're just going back to it, Marie. Sorry. What is a rough number? What is a rough number then? You must know how a rough number you deal with without looking at the IT system.
We've got about, have you got the actual number, Joe? It's about 400, I think, currently with statements.
Thank you.
400 statements.
Yeah, it's approximately 400 statements at the moment. One thing I will say with predicted numbers, Gareth, is that at the moment schools and the local authority are going through a conversion process. So we are, the conversion process has started from this January. So schools mainly, and the local authority with those that we're responsible for, are going through a conversion process of moving children from the SEN system to the ALN system. Now, it will take up until the end of the implementation period to get a clearer number of how many children will have ALN, because when children are converted from the SEN system to the ALN system, some will be converted and they will stay on the ALN system, as they will stay having recognised ALN. However, some may, when they're converted, not have ALN. So I think at the moment it's going to take probably until the end of implementation before we get a clearer picture of how many children with ALN we have in Denbighshire. Like Mary says, at the moment we've approximately got 400 with statements of SEN, but we do have learners in schools at school support without necessarily us getting involved at School Action Plus under the SEN system. Like I say, as we move through converting them, we will start to get clearer numbers on what that looks like in terms of the ALM world.
What date will that be? Sorry, roughly, when will we have that?
So the end of the implementation period. So we're going in this September coming is the second year of implementation. So next September, so September 2023 is the third year. So at the end of that academic year will be the end of the implementation period. So it'll be September 2024. That hope that everything, according to the Welsh Government timelines, everything will be moved across, or everything, sorry, every child will move across, and the system will be in place fully.
Okay, and the support around it, training for the so forth. That was my second part, wasn't it?
Do you want you to do that?
Yeah, please.
So we have engaged with third parties. So for example, we've done some training with parental groups. Thank you very much for the plug for this evening, Gareth. We've got the, the governor training this afternoon, this evening, which has gone out, I believe, to all governors. In terms of the sort of training internally in schools, we tend to deliver training to ALMCOs, and then it gets disseminated down, because under the new roles and responsibilities of the ALMCO is responsible for sort of delivering and coordinating that training in schools. We've also had numerous training that's been put on regionally, so through GWER as well. So we've had lots of person-centred training. We've had differentiation training as well. As I say, we have been engaging with third parties, so parental groups as well.
Okay.
I think the differentiation work was for parents as well, Gareth. I think there was Mike Gershon, I think there was a programme there for parents in terms of differentiating as well. So there has been, as well as you know, delivering to stand. And I know, you know, you mentioned Prestatyn there. I think Geraint did actually go and visit. We have actually offered to go and offer training there. They haven't taken us up on that at the moment, but so we are sort of engaging with those sort of support groups as well as parents. And we're also making sure and referring them to Snap Cymru as well in terms of process if their child is going through the process, because I think it's that level of understanding that they need on expectations, but also on process and understanding it. So in every case, we say to schools to encourage parents to go through Snap as well, so that they're getting that support if they're going through the process, as well as training generally.
If I can just pick up, I think, Gareth, on your last point was about parental engagement. A lot of work has been done regionally to develop consistent information and approaches to updating parents in terms of the Welsh Government's timelines and how things are going to work. That's been developed regionally. It's then been disseminated out to schools, and schools have been leading on engaging with their parents, because it's been felt across the region that they are best placed to engage with parents, as they know their parents better than us in the local authority. But obviously, as always, we're always here to offer support to schools as and when they need it.
Because it's a continuing basis to remind people, the new parents coming in. So thank you ever so much for both of you for your comprehensive answer.
Okay, Ellie, please.
I'll see you later.
My question is, can everybody hear me? It's about the, I don't know whether it's Mary or Joe, the eclipse. Is the programme in all the schools now, or is it going to be introduced to the schools?
This one's definitely Joe, Ellie. I'm not very active.
It's all right.
That's okay. This is definitely Joe.
Yeah,
so
they are, Joe.
It is in all schools now. So it's we went live with the system, I believe, at the very end of November last year. So
Good.
all schools have got access to it. Now, I know there have been some teething problems in terms of sort of Denbighshire IT and firewalls and various things which are much more technical than I can understand. But we have been supporting from an education department, but Denbighshire IT are leading on, and Denbighshire IT run the Eclipse system for us. So they have been supporting schools where there have been technical issues.
That's good to know. And I'm hoping that all the ALCOs, not the SENCOs, because I'm changing words now, the ALCOs know how to use the system. All right, that's Mike. Just wondering, I'm hoping they all are able to use the system.
So
yeah,
we each cluster identified 2 ALCOs which then receive training from the actual company that's supplying the system, along with certain key people in the local authority. And then we developed a train the trainer model. So those people then went off to train the ALCOs in their clusters. We still have within the Eclipse system, there is a live environment where sort of live cases are and live data is. We also have a training environment where there's no live cases and no sort of pupil data. It's just made up pupils. And that system is there all the time. So we do keep saying to Alan, because if you want to do more training, if you want to just log in and have a play around, you can access the training site, because whatever you do on there, it gets refreshed every morning. So if you make mistakes or you want to try something, try it on there, and then you can it just gets wiped, and then you can obviously do it for real in the live system.
Excellent, thank you. That's I'm feeling quite, that's good.
Also, Ellie, outside of Eclipse, just generally, we have also this year for new ALCOs introduced like an induction program, a bit like the one for new head teachers, because of the role and the changing role, you know, that the higher level of accountability on schools and for the ALCOs. So that will continue as well. So if new ALCOs come on board, Eclipse will be one of those things that's one of those sessions as well for training. So even if new people come in, we'll maintain that as we go forward.
Especially, you know, especially when staff go off sick and things. It's good. So thank you both for that.
Terry, Councillor Terry Reynolds.
Thanks, Joe. No, I'll withdraw my question. Joe's answered my question before he even asked it. Well done, Joe.
Right. Any more questions in the room there? Paul.
Hi. Thanks very much for that. We're over halfway now in the implementation period. Do you think that implementation is achievable in the remaining time?
I'll answer. Joe, do you want me to answer that? Yeah, we are. I mean, we are sort of about halfway through. There are sort of a couple of years remaining in terms of the actual implementation of the drawing out. A lot of the preparatory work was done before the implementation period started, if you like. A lot of that preparatory work was done. We are on track at the moment in terms of where we needed to be in terms of systems, you know, and that is being monitored sort of regionally as well. We do now have half-termly meetings with the implementation lead from Welsh Government as well. So those sort of questions and the questions they ask us are to find out, are we the same, are we ahead? And I know from conversations we had a meeting, didn't we, last week, Joe, that in some things, particularly with the early years, she says we're miles ahead in some areas there, which was really good to hear. So, and in terms of that, it's comparing and making sure. So the purpose of those meetings is to make sure that we are on track and meeting where we should be. And so, yeah, we are confident that we will sort of meet those timescales and be ready. You know, schools have been also working really, really hard with converting learners or any ALN considerations they've had, you know, requests from parents. So we're meeting timescales. Joe, I don't know if you've got anything further you wish to add.
No, I'd agree, Mary, that according to the sort of Welsh Government's implementation timeline, I know they did update it a few months ago. And we've recently had the guidance for converting learners with statements of SEN, which will start and commence in September. So yes, I believe that we will be able to achieve all the expectations of the Welsh Government. But I think it's, as Mary pointed out, it's really helpful that we do have these half-termly meetings with the new National ALN Transformation Lead now. So there is we have an outlet in a way to sort of raise any concerns that we've got, and obviously we can then have feedback as well on how we're doing compared to everyone else. So yeah, I think we'll be fine.
Thank you very much.
Yes, Garrett. Yes.
Yeah, if I can just come in on school readiness, because obviously that is a key question for us. You know, there are national expectations, and you know, it is a case of you know, failure is not an option. We want Denbighshire to be there, to be ready, to be ahead of the game even. So it is something that, you know, we do monitor, and it is monitored regularly. And in paragraph 1.9, you'll see around talking about the G6 online system. That's a system that regionally is used where there's key milestones that schools place themselves against. So it gives an overview of, you know, where individual schools are, so that we can get a sort of collective view of where Denbighshire is. And, you know, if there are any requirements, well, that's where we sort of can plug the gap or offer more support or, you know, do whatever's necessary, because we will be ready.
You highlight a number of risks. Rural schools grants, financial hardship, Solihull parenting, page 66. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, there are you know, obviously there are risks along the road with you know, everything that we do, and obviously with the implementation of the ALN, you know, there are risks, and you know, these are risks that we are you know, constantly managing. It's a case of, you know, we are plate spinning. And you know, we had a meeting with the inspector at Estin last week, and one slide I put up on the screen was of somebody spinning plates, and that was how we feel quite often, and it is making sure that those plates are all spinning, and when one starts to wobble, we're there ready to give it another flick to make it spin a bit quicker. So yes, there are risks, especially around, you know, when funding, like the small rural schools grant that was used, that funding came to an end. Quite often funding additional grant funding, they last for about 3 years, and then, you know, there is a change or it's rebranded under a, you know, a different title, but you know, it is something that, you know, we are aware of the risks, and you know, we are trying to mitigate any of the risks without compromising the end product, the end journey, because at the end of the day, for us, and again, the four of us here, we're all teachers again, we are dealing with children, aren't we? People, young people who, you know, this is their chance, and you know, that is always the focus for us, so that, you know, we are ready. I don't know, Mary, Joe, anything?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to reiterate what Geraint said. We're aware of them. I think the reason we highlighted it is because, you know, as it said there are 2 family link workers contracts ending. We're going to have to find them the funding, because we were just trying to highlight really that we can't be reducing levels of staffing, because particularly for, you know, children going into school or in preschool settings, we're going to need to make sure that they're still getting those support, because actually what we're finding, we've identified that the need is definitely language and play and speech and language, and getting those things in so it isn't a time to reduce, so it's finding it from other grants just to maintain it. You know, we brought it last year about the educational psychology, and that's been acknowledged, and so we do now have 4 educational psychologists, with it looking to increase that in other ways, and obviously the other risk that we've got there is that our ALNA, which is a key role for early years additional needs coordinator for the local authority, is going to be retiring, so that post is out for advert as well. So that it's just highlighting that we're aware of the risks, we are managing them, but we just felt it was important that you were aware of those. But yeah, they are being managed.
Councillor Carol Holiday.
Thank you, Chair. You mentioned briefly about finance. That's why I worry if the pot runs dry and you've got ALN pupils that really need the support, and what happens, and how can you prevent it or make sure that the support will always be there for them to get to their potential?
Okay, do you
Yeah,
to answer this one, Geraint?
The paper to the school budget forum on this quite recently.
Yeah. I mean, in 2021-22, I believe it did come to council as a budget pressure, and I think 600,000 there or thereabouts for both secondary and primary separately. Additional funding was allocated. The costed provision map system is schools actually inputting what the children are currently getting. So it's very much more directed at actual need, to try and mitigate that as much as possible of what you're saying about the concerns. We then moderate the costed provision maps And at the moment, we're carrying out an audit of a few schools as well, just to sort of track back that what is on the costed provision map is there, so that that funding is allocated appropriately. So the costed provision map system is very detailed. It's about an individual child and what they get. So when schools fill that in, the funding that they receive is about the children currently on their roll, currently receiving it. And so it should sort of really support that fluctuation that may have happened previously, and ensuring that those children do get the support that they need. As you say, we're all teachers. What we need to do is to make sure that young people in our schools are getting what they need. And this costed provision map system is there for that. There is also for primary, because we do sometimes have children just sort of coming in from out of county, so there is an additional sort of pot of money there that schools can apply for if they've got budget pressures. And again, that is to make sure that the learner, if the school identifies that a child needs support, that finance and budget isn't a barrier to that support being put in place.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
I think time's running on. We're running a little bit over. So I'll take us now, please, to recommendations again, which are that the Scrutiny Committee are invited to discuss the details of the report, identify any aspect of the transformation work which may benefit from detailed examination in the future. So I was just going to say under that, as in the previous item, updates, what would be appropriate to bring back for us and when?
Well, I think we bought both papers, the Curriculum for Wales and the ALN 12 months ago, and we've bought them together because they are linked. They are intertwined. All of this is intertwined. So I suggest that in 12 months' time, there would be the Eclipse system would be, it's quite new at the moment. It would be up and running, and the data, we would be able to provide more data because it would be all in place. So I'm happy if committee requests that we come back.
I was thinking
12 months
that we do the two items together, Rhian. Yeah. Is that, members, are you comfortable with that? Yeah. So will somebody move the recommendations plus the addition that we'll be having update reports in 12 months? Terry?
I'll move it.
Yeah, fine. Everybody happy with that? All in favour? Lovely. Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody from education, for coming in today. I hope the committee have demonstrated you that we've read the papers.
Could I just remind any governors there is training on elective home education, ALN and DBS for governors tonight. So
I can't wait, Geraint. I'm all signed up and ready.
Just to plug that for anybody.
Lovely. Okay, I think I've just discovered that recently that my term of office as a governor at Prestatyn High has probably expired under the system, so I'm now a former governor, I think. Wait.
Quick, sign him up.
Very much for your time. It's been really two good sessions you've brought to us today. Thank you both for that. Because I know Jill's I better not use the word a veteran of education. That's not fair. But I mean, she's highly educated.
It's not that far off the mark, to be honest.
Highly experienced in education, but nevertheless, it's a big papers to bring at the early stage. And I think it's been a good discussion, and we'll look forward to the updates.
Yeah,
so
thank you for the questions as well. The understanding is obviously there from reading the papers, and they've all been good questions, and yeah, it's been nice to engage with it from the other side of the fence, shall we say, on my part. So thank you.
Thank you. So 10-minute break, folks. Is that? Oh, right. Just joined the meeting. Borrowed out. Thank you for attending. Item 7 then is the Social Care Market Stability Report, page 143 in the pack, and I think the lead member is Ellen Heaton, accompanied with Jill German, and Nicola is the chief officer or director. Yeah. So can you introduce the report, please, ladies?
Hello. So the Welsh Government have introduced a new requirement for local authorities and the health boards to develop a joint assessment of the sustainability and sufficiency of the social care market as part of the Social Services and Wellbeing Act. So the market stability report you have in front of you today is for North Wales, and it has been produced by the North Wales Regional Partnership Board. And it's been informed by the population needs assessment. It's the first of its kind, and it is a live document, so it will be amended and updated accordingly. The report assesses the sufficiency of care and support in meeting the needs and demand of the population in the region, as well as the stability of the market for regulated services. It will assist the region in effectively commission and support providers of health and social care services, and will be the basis on which future decisions and planning is based on. I'm sure many of you are aware of many challenges that the social care market is facing, which had existed before the pandemic had begun, but the effects of the pandemic and now the cost of living crisis, amongst other factors, are causing further strains. The challenges are very complex and multifaceted, and I believe that this report demonstrates and identifies this very well. I studied this report in great detail, and I would actively encourage any members who haven't read it in full to do so, as it provides such a detailed understanding of social care in Denbighshire and its challenges. Provided you have the time, it is quite a long report, but I do believe it is worthwhile. But I'll now hand over to Anne. Is Anne here? Yeah, to provide further details on the report. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. So yeah, so as Ellen's just stated, this is a regional document and it's been put together the 6 local authorities and the health board. It is a lengthy document. It does cover a number of areas across social care, but some of the key messages I think that are coming out for Denbighshire is that there is been a slight reduction in the overall capacity of the care home sector in Denbighshire. But what's happened is, whilst there is capacity there within the care home sector, it's not meeting the current needs and the future needs. So there was, we've got a lot of general residential care, and there is not the demand for general residential care that there was maybe 10, 15 years ago. People now that are going into residential care have much more complex needs. So there is more demand for complex sort of care. So things like dementia. So we're looking at elderly, mentally infirm support and nursing care. So the sort of supply we've got doesn't meet the demand because the needs have changed. I mean, people want to stay in their homes for longer, and rightly so. And that's what family members want as well. So we've seen a shift in how things go. We've also got extra care housing, again, which allows people to live independently in a small community and cares on site if they need it. So again, that provides that independence for much longer. And we've got, a reasonable supply of extra care housing. We've got some additional units being built in Ruthin over the next couple of years. So the supply in the care home sector has changed. So that is one that's a bit of an issue for us. Some of the current general residential, it's really difficult to convert that into new sort of more demanding EMI type care because the buildings aren't suitable. The additional fees sometimes don't meet the needs, what the cost is going to be for that provider. So there's dialogue going on with Welsh Government at the moment to see how we can support them providers to maybe make that shift. So that's something for the future when we're thinking about commissioning. The other thing for us is people with learning disabilities. People are living longer. Health and medicine has moved on, significantly, and that's really good. But people are moving through children's services and adult services with really complex packages of care that are quite costly, and obviously they need that through their adult life, and because they're living longer, that they're with us much longer, and them expensive packages of care obviously have to continue. Sorry, I'm just looking at the document here. So that's some of the adult issues that we've got to deal with. And obviously domiciliary care at the moment, again, because people are wanting to stay at home for much longer, and that's what families want, there is a higher demand on domiciliary care. We're really struggling in the domiciliary care market at the moment because of recruitment and retention issues. We're all aware of what the recruitment and retention issues are generally, but in domiciliary care, it's even more prevalent at the moment. People just are not coming into the sector, and people that are in the sector are not staying in the sector. So that is quite a challenge for us. And the other one is respite care for people with quite complex health conditions as well. So we've got general respite care that people can access, and that gives carers a bit of a break. But when it comes to some specialist, for example, stroke, acquired brain injury, things like that, we haven't got enough resources for things for that sort of respite care. So that's some of the commissioning things we need to look at the future, and are reflected in this report. So that's it for an adult perspective. If it's okay, I'm going to pass across to Rianne, and Rianne maybe just give you it from a children's services point of view, because this report covers obviously adults and children's.
Morning, everybody. Sorry, I missed the first part of that conversation because my computer was playing up and I couldn't hear anybody. So from a children's services point of view, from the market stability report, it told us what we already knew. So there is a lack of locally available foster placements, particularly for children with the more complex needs, including issues of self-harm, suicide ideation, exploitation, both in in-house fostering and also in the independent sector. What we do well in Denbighshire in terms of our in-house fostering is we have good longevity with our foster carers. Once we get people through the door and we approve people, they tend to stay with us for quite some time. And that's great, because also what that means is we can give some real good, stable, longer term placements. But obviously that then has an impact on availability of more short term emergency placements. And that's certainly a focus that we need to have going forward in terms of commissioning and targeting for new foster carers, is those carers that can take those short term emergency placements for more complex needs. In terms of residential, there are residential provisions within Denbighshire, but they tend to be provisions that have got very specialist and specific criteria. For the more general, behaviour, we're having to place at a distance when we have to use residential, which is not ideal. Now, part of our future commissioning is around the establishment of the Button Adol Assessment Centre, which is the joint centre we have with Conway and Health colleagues. Hopefully that build will be finished at some point in the coming 12 to 18 months, and that will give us an additional ability to keep children closer to home, whilst we do that very in-depth assessment for those children that are displaying very complex behaviour, with a view to keeping those young people at home, of course. But if we can't, we will have a real what care is going forward, so we can commission an appropriate in a more informed manner really than we're at the moment. Because what is happening undoubtedly within children's services is the lack of foster placements means that some young people are escalating into residential because either their needs are escalating quickly or because it's the only available option. The more we place young people with less complex needs in residential, the more those children with complex needs are kind of pushed to the periphery. So it becomes a bit of a market where providers can pick and choose, which is not what we want. Residential care is not my preferred outcome for any young person. I would rather have a good quality choice of foster carers, and I think that's that we can show that there's better outcomes there. And of course we want our own in-house carers, because again, in terms of outcomes and in terms of stability of placements, we know that's better for us. So this market stability report demonstrates the slight rise in foster care across the region. It demonstrates a lack of placements and really focuses our commissioning intent around really pushing the fostering close to home message, which Mayfair Cymru will help us with, of course, but also our own team has a action plan of what they intend to do over the next 12 to 18 months, which includes looking at the support, the core offer of support we give to our carers, and trying to really improve that package to make fostering for Denbighshire more attractive than fostering for an independent provider, for example. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, now, members, we've had, I'm sure we've all been busy last night reading up all these copious notes for today's meeting. So really what I'm looking for now is questions. And I notice Gareth's got his hand up, please.
Right, start with the questions. Thank you very much for your reports. Very comprehensive. We've got a very competitive, and you said time and time again, recruitment across the sector. What really I'm looking for is what we're going to do to make a difference within Denbighshire. We're here to focus on the county, as well as I hear a lot of collaborative regional working, and it all sounds great and that, but what are the results locally and focused? So what's Denbighshire going to do to make the authorities as attractive as possible, excluding outside the pay, because the pay is a very, set thing. But how are we going to recruit our own within the county, within the competition we have? Do we grow our own? I think Rian touched on it, but with children's services briefly. Where do we see ourselves with that? I've also got a second question regarding extra care housing. We've done a lot, particularly in the south of the county. Will you look at alternative provision for extra care housing in the north of the county to alleviate the demands over the private sector over the next term of the council, the 5 years? We've got a lot of interested. Do we have a takeover team if the private sector is struggling as well as part of that? Thank you. Two simple questions.
Should I take the recruitment and retention one, because it's across both children's and adults?
Please, and I'll come in after you, yeah.
Yeah, great. So a really good question, Gareth, and is currently probably my #1 priority in my role as the Statutory Director of Social Services. What I would say is we have to consider this in the context of not only the rest of Wales, but also the UK. There is a shortage of social care staff at all levels, from frontline domiciliary residential care roles right the way through our professionally qualified posts, social workers, occupational therapists, management, senior management, and so on. So it is an issue that is taxing us not just locally, but also regionally and nationally. And as you would expect, I am very vocal on this subject, and only a few months ago gave evidence at the Senate to the Health and Sport Committee around the recruitment and retention crisis we find ourselves in as a nation. So what we're doing about it, we're doing absolutely lots of things about it. As you can see, my background today is and Rian's is about actively recruiting foster carers. So we are taking each and every opportunity to utilise every resource available. My other backgrounds that I use is some of our corporate vehicles where we have advertising for adult domiciliary care and residential care on those vehicles. I've been tasked by our chief executive, who identifies this crisis that we're in, to chair a corporate social care recruitment and retention board, because this is not just about recruiting, it's also about retaining our existing staff, who are our absolute asset. And that group, it's a corporate group. We have representations from across different services of the council who are working to assist both children's and adult social care in this task. So we do see it as a corporate priority. And fundamentally, we are looking at this moment in time at terms and conditions. I think it's fair to say, and Rian and Anne will no doubt agree, prior to COVID, our ways of working was very modern, and we actually were leading the way in terms of how staff were able to work from with the IT systems that they had and the equipment that we were able to make available to them. What COVID did was, although we were
able to hit the ground running because we had that technology. What it's done is it's brought everybody else up to a level playing field with us now. So what was one of our sort of unique selling points prior to COVID no longer stands out for us. But we do have some really positive aspects to working at Denbighshire, and many of our staff will tell us that, you know, they enjoy working for Denbighshire. They feel supported by Denbighshire. There are lots of positives. That being said, it's really difficult at the moment carrying the numbers of vacancies that we have. And therefore, whilst it may be a good place to work, at times it doesn't always feel like that because of those pressures. So we're working corporately, we're working within the services, we're addressing this and escalating it regionally and nationally. And, you know, if I'm really honest, I think the only show left in town now is terms and conditions. But then we're part of a corporate body, and if we do that in social care, it has implications for other parts of the council workforce as well. So I'm not naive to think that what we do in social care doesn't have other implications. It does. So we need to be mindful of the impact of that. So not a straightforward response to your question, Gareth, but would like to reassure the committee that this is an issue of the highest concern and attention at the moment. Diolch.
Thanks. If I can just briefly come back to that. I am aware we are where we are, to coin a phrase, but we need some blue sky thinking in tackling this challenge head on and going forward now. And I think, Nicola, you're well in place to tackle that. But yes, on to my second question, if you can.
Yep. So in relation to extra care housing, so yeah, the developments that we've had recently have been in the south of the county. So just opened a facility in Denby, and we're extending our facility in Ruthin. But what we have got is 2 excellent facilities for extra care housing in the north of the county. So we've got Nantamore in Prestatyn, and we've got Gorwell Nowith in Rill. Now, both of them facilities are managed, or the property belongs to and is managed by RSLs, so the registered social landlords, but we actually provide the care in those extra care housing facilities. So we're providing the care in both of them. And at the moment, there is demand for them, but we're managing that demand. So I think probably as provision goes at the moment, we're okay in the north in relation to extra care housing. I think it's something we're going to have to monitor very carefully. And, you know, if there are residential care homes that want to change their provision, we will have conversations with them. You know, we're really keen to work. We do have a really good working relationship with our providers, and we will continue to build on that. So if there are any providers that want conversations about modernising, adapting, changing their provision, the door's always open for a conversation. Is that okay? Does that answer your question, Gareth, or have you got any other concerns?
Well, obviously, it's a growing subject, isn't it? With the growing aged population, we're always going to be needing extra. So have we got a plan to deal with that extra in the future? It's all about looking forward to the future and not saying, well, we are where we are now. That's, I think, one of the points of scrutiny as well. So thank you very much, Anne.
Okay, thank you.
And now I think we've got Ellie wanting to ask a question.
Yeah. And while I was listening to the answers, and thank you all for the presentation, I just suddenly thought, Nicola and Anne, you know, in the local colleges, they do healthcare for the girls and boys to go into nursing and what have you. What about, it's all on scribble here, what about offering apprenticeships for those interested well, not even youngsters, they could be in their, well, could be nearly my age, offering them apprenticeships, and then for future care workers. I was just wondering,
we do it, Ellie, we do it.
Oh, bother. Oh, sorry. I thought
local authorities, but yeah, I'll let Nicola come in as well. But yeah, we are engaged with them, but I'll let Nicola come in on this one as well.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
it's a really good point, Ellie, and it's something that I've discussed with the minister and the deputy minister, who are both keen to raise the profile not only of apprenticeships but also apprenticeships within the field of health and social care.
Good.
It's quite disconcerting though that actually one of the most popular courses in the colleges is health and social care. But then the reason it's disconcerting is because it leads to the fewest number of students actually progressing in that area of employment. So what is that? What's the disconnect between those who enter that college course and then they leave and don't go into that area of work? So there's something we need to do, and we do know this, and we're working at a regional level through the Regional Workforce Board, and also nationally through the National Workforce Strategy, to try and address that and actually look at the whole issues of what is it around social care as a career? How do we make that systematic change? In terms of apprenticeships, one of the things that I've discussed with the minister and deputy minister is for an independent provider. So, you know, one of our residential care homes, for example, might be a relatively small establishment with a small number of employees. To actually embark on an apprenticeship scheme would be very challenging for that provider on their own, because there's an awful lot of bureaucracy involved in the process, rightly so, because it needs to be done properly. So one of the things we're keen to explore as a region is some kind of consortia approach, where the local authority could be the lead body for the apprenticeship scheme, and actually placements are then sourced in different settings, not just within the local authority. Because there's always a balance, isn't there, between having staff that are learning on the job and staff that need the time to do the job. So what we don't want is lots and lots of students that then detract our existing staff because they need that attention. So there's, you know, we have to find that balance. But that is something that we're definitely talking about locally, regionally and nationally, and we do have the support of Welsh Government to try and move this forward with earnest.
Can I just come back in at that point, and locally as well, if there's any like school careers fairs or there's jobs fairs or whatever, we're making sure we've got a presence there locally as well to try and, you know, promote the sector, recruit people. So every opportunity at the moment that we get to go out there and sell Denbighshire and sell social care, we're doing it.
Good. It's nice to know. And if I've got any more ideas, Nicola and Anne, I'll be sending them to you, because I get really upset over the years, you know, seeing the youngsters going through primary, through secondary school, and I'll say to them when they get to 16, 17, we're in the real college, Mrs. Child. Oh, what you doing? Healthcare. And of course, next time I see them, they're all young mums. So it's just the way it is. Just the way it is, isn't it? It's just life, I'm afraid. But so I am trying my best. But thank you for your answer. Thank you.
Councillor Terry.
Yeah, one for Nicola, really. You mentioned that you got a lot of these students that do the course, you know, the health and social work, and then they go, oh, where do they go? If they've got a qualification, where do they go? You know, what's the point of taking the course if they don't go into the social work?
From the discussions I've had with the college principals, they go into other forms of employment, and having sort of, I think they come into the course thinking it's going to be opportunities to play nice with children, or to go and sit and have a panad with somebody, an old person in their home. I don't think the reality of what social care careers are is fully understood at the point they start the course.
Would it then would it then be pertinent to maybe change the course that, say, month 2, month 3, they actually go and get a bit of hands-on to see what it's like?
Well, that's why we're working with the colleges to try and ensure that we get out there and we talk to those students. And there's something around that curriculum that you just had on your earlier agenda item about actually talking to young people before they're choosing college courses about what careers there are, what health and social care is, and the reality of it. And we do have and recently had some placements with students. Unfortunately, because of the nature of the work, they can't do all of the tasks, but they're starting to get more of an opportunity to see the work in practice. So this is a collective response that the Regional Workforce Board, because that covers all partners, the colleges, the universities, as well as the employers, we need to come at this all together. So it is a collective endeavour.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Carroll.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Nicola, going back to what you've just said, I can understand why they probably don't get their hands on and they don't see what the reality is. But the careers in school officers or what have you, surely they could sort of get sort of like taster sessions in sort of home care and things like this, or buddy somebody, you know, a member of staff for a day or something, just to get insight and to get the feel of whether the vocation is for them. Because I do feel you need the right people to provide the service. They've got to have a caring and vocational nature in that way. And that the financial costs give them a bit of reward for doing it. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Have we got any more questions? Gareth again. Yeah, thank you, Gareth.
So just quickly unmute. Yes, it's a question across the board, and I think it's a theme of what I'll be saying today is, you know, in 12 months' time, what do you see your key objectives to be? Where do you see yourself in 12 months' time hoping to achieve? What do you see it? By the time you report to us next time, where do you think we'll be? It's a bit of an interview question, that, isn't it? Job interview. So
from a market stability position, I'll let Anne and Rhiann talk about where they hope to see any changes in the market in the next 12 months, if that's okay.
So if I come in from an adult's perspective, I think domiciliary care is one of your biggest concerns at the moment, and that's something that we're focusing on. That's the worry. We've got, you know, some solutions in place. We're looking at micro enterprise. We're looking at small providers in the rural area. We're trying to grow our own internal service. So I think that for us is one of the main focuses, because as I've said, people want to stay at home. People want that care at home. They don't necessarily want to go into residential care. And actually, we don't want them to go into residential care, because usually when they do, they lose that independence. So for us, it'll be to try and get some stability around that domiciliary care market. It's a challenge, but we're all working together to try and do that. So I think for me, that's going to be the biggest challenge for us in the next 12 months, and the one that I hope we can make some progress with, but a challenge for us.
Thank you, Rhiann.
And for me, over the next 12 months, I'll be bringing to various committees for decisions around implementing a fostering friendly Denbighshire policy. So that's about improving our core offer to foster carers, to making it easier and more supportive for staff members across the council to foster for us by, you know, thinking about annual leave provision. For example, you know, at the moment, if you want to foster for us, and you have to do a skills course before you're approved. At the minute, you'd have to take annual leave to do that. If you were a member of the council, well, really, should we be doing that? Or actually, should we be saying, if you're coming to foster for us, we'll give you an additional couple of days leave so you can do those courses? Very simple things like that. So we're reviewing our core offer. We want that fostering friendly policy. I'm going to start talking about council tax and all sorts of things around council tax and foster carers. The other other local authorities are doing and have already implemented and can show that it actually attracts people into fostering. It also attracts people who are all independent. So I'll be bringing that forward. So I'd hope that in 12 months' time, we've got those policies embedded and that's improved our recruitment rate for foster carers. And I'd also hope that we would be, if not launched, well on our way to having Button Adal up and running. So we have got that assessment centre for our more high-end complex young people locally, so that we can actually keep those young people close to us, so that we can do that therapeutic work and keep them within their family home. Because ultimately this is about having our local children local, so we can do that work, return to their family of origin safely as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Okay. Is there a crossover here between services that we provide through the local authority and services that are supplied by a contractor, i.e. a care company or whatever? Are there any thoughts on that subject?
The market stability report incorporates all of that, Hugh.
Yeah. Fine. Thank you. Okay. Any more questions anywhere? No, fine. Right. In that case, thank you very much for the report. We're going to move on now to the recommendations. That we recommend the approval of the Market Stability Report 2022, and we confirm that we've read, understood, and taken account of the equalities impact assessment as part of the consideration. Can I just ask you, will there be a 2023 report?
No, this is for the next 5 years. So unless there's something significant changes in it, then I don't think we would be bringing this back.
No,
what we will do is we're moving on to the annual report, and I think probably what we can reflect is some of that development in the Director of Social Services annual report, which does come every year, and that's probably the best place to report, I think, any developments within social services moving forward.
Yeah, so I'm just thinking in terms of next steps. So we're not going to necessarily see this report again, but the information you're giving us today can be built into something else.
The final version of the report will be going to full council in September. So this is draft at the moment to collect, and it's going through the same process across the rest of the local authorities in North Wales. There is a final report that will come to full council. I think it's in September, Hugh.
Fine. Okay. Thank you. Right, members, you've seen the recommendation. Are you happy to move them? Yes, that's Gareth and Paul seconded. We all in favour of adopting the report? Yep. Thank you very much. All in favour. Thank you very much, officers, for that report. It's extremely interesting subject, and we hope that next time we see your statistics in some form or other, we'll be seeing hopefully some results for all the efforts that you're clearly making. So thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Right, that takes us then now to item 8, which is the draft of the Director of Social Services annual report, which you can find on page 329. 349, sorry. I'll find it in a moment. Right, thank you. Thank you. Yes, right. Are the lead members going to introduce this? Yeah, Ellen again. Yeah, thank you.
So each year, statutory directors of social services are required to produce a report summarising their view on the effectiveness of social care services in their authority, as well as outlining priorities for improvement. So as we've just heard and discussed, social care is in quite a precarious situation, which goes beyond a regional level. Therefore, the main focus this past year has been on maintaining capacity and resource in order to effectively deliver statutory services to meet the needs of Denbighshire's population. So this has limited the ability to progress and to develop as much as hoped. But that said, as you will have seen in the report, improvements have been made in some areas despite many obstacles. So I'll hand this over now to the director herself, with it being her report. I'm sure she'll have much to add. So thank you.
Diolch, Ellen. Thank you for that. Yeah, I'm delighted, members, to present what is my 8th annual report to you. I believe it to be an honest and fair reflection of the performance of our children's and adult social services departments. As the lead member just said, this report has to be read in the context of the situation that social care finds itself in at the moment. Whilst I'd like to say we're recovering from COVID, we are still having the effects of COVID affect our performance and our ability to deliver. So it has been a challenging year, and despite that, we have achieved some significant aspects which the report identifies. This report, whilst is looking backwards at the previous year, also identifies areas that we want to focus on in the future. And no doubt this committee and other scrutiny committees will want to have updates on some of those things as we move throughout this current financial year. So I would always echo that whilst this is my report, it's not a report that is created in isolation. It is a team effort from everyone working in social care in Denbighshire, and I include informal carers in that. This is something that we cannot do on our own, and is a testament to the professionalism, the dedication and the hard work of everyone working to support adults and children in Denbighshire. So Anne and Rhiannon are here as well if there are any detailed questions that they may know more about or can assist me in answering, but happy to present this report to a committee. Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you. Questions? Members have any questions? Do I see Gareth's hand up? Oh, and Ellie, yes.
I think Ellie was first, to be honest. So I'll give it to Ellie.
Yeah, Ellie.
Thank you. My question is the same as last year's. What is the update on the Bwthyn o Ddwl? And I'm hoping it's nearly finished, but I await. Okay.
Okay, I'm trying to what I would like to say, Ellie, is that Rhiannon and I are absolutely committed to the development of this scheme. It's something we have both felt was needed for a long time, and we have progressed in as much as the multidisciplinary team is now in place and he's working with families, and we're seeing some really positive outcomes from the work that that team is doing. Unfortunately, our desire to have a residential assessment unit, an actual buildings-based provision, has had a number of stumbling blocks. Unfortunately, the tender that Conwy as the lead partner had been involved in has had a number of issues. I'm not a procurement specialist, so I don't want to use incorrect terminology here, but we find ourselves at this moment in time having to go back out for a build partner. We are exploring a temporary accommodation provision because we do believe that whilst we have the team, actually having that building space will enable us to take it to the next level. So whilst our actual permanent build has had a number of stumbling blocks, we are looking at interim solutions as well. So Rhiannon, I don't know if there's anything more you'd like to add?
Yeah, the interim solution is coming on board hopefully by the end of the year, We've got the building, we've used grant funding to do some adaptations that have been needed in order to meet regulatory requirements in terms of registration with CIW. We're out for staff group now looking at actually care staff, because the multidisciplinary kind of support team. So all of that's going through, and the intention is that the staff that is in the temporary build will then transfer to the permanent build when that's done. But Nicola's absolutely right. The MDT are doing a marvelous job working with really complex families, can show that they've been able to keep young people at home. However, they are doing that with one hand tied behind their back almost, because this aspect, this bit of their kit bag is missing. And I think they would have had perhaps quicker results had they been able to offer that respite facility as well for some of that work. So the interim solution is not ideal, but I think it will really benefit our young people to be able to bring that on board, hopefully by around November.
Lovely. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Gareth?
Thank you, Hugh. Just looking at, wow, 8 years. Where's the time flown? Or as dragged as the case may be. No,
I was
seriously.
only 20 when I started this job, Gareth.
I remember the interview day well. I was only 19. Right. Just going back to it, the complaints procedure. There's a number. You raised this. It's an important part of the report, and I'm just wondering where we're going to do with reducing them and concluding them, so we don't get any complaints in the future.
I'll let Anne come in a minute, but first of all, I'd say it's not healthy for an organisation not to receive complaints.
Oh no, absolutely not.
There is a balance, so I would never want us to be in a position where we weren't receiving any complaints. I truly believe that as a learning organisation, it's healthy to have some. Obviously, we would prefer not to have people complain because something's not quite right. But as I say, as a learning organisation, there is something around receiving complaints, inquiries about those complaints, and appropriately dealing with them within a reasonable time scale. Anne manages our complaints for both children's and adults, which is something we've introduced recently. Used to be separate in the two services. So Anne will be able to provide you with a bit more detail.
Yeah, and I think in relation to complaints, yeah, we do get them, and as Nicola says, that's good, and it's the learning we take from them. We normally handle them within timescales, and we try wherever possible to solutions, which we're quite good at doing as well. So that actually, when you see the number of complaints, some of the ones that we've been able to address before they get to a formal complaint is also, we're handling a lot of them as well. So you're right, we don't want to get to a point where we don't have any complaints. I think it's about the fact that we can effectively handle them complaints and resolve them without them being escalated any further. And I think that the numbers that get escalated to stage 2 and beyond that then have to go to an ombudsman are minimal. And that's the point, I think, where, we've got that effective process there to handle complaints. Quite often it's a communication issue. And we take that seriously again, and we look at the learning from that. And we have done quite a lot of training. Certainly before COVID, we did a lot of training around communication, which came out of complaints. Obviously, with virtual meetings and things, a lot of that has actually eased because people have got more access to staff sometimes quicker, and can do it, have been able to do it virtually as well as in face-to-face meetings. So communication has improved. But I think overall, for the number of complaints we get for the size of service, I don't think there's a massive issue with complaints, Gareth, personally.
Okay. I mean, just to comment on that, it'll be interesting to see what it's like, you taking all the complaints and having to manage that yourself on your own. But because it is always a collective responsibility. But is there anything out there? Will we be seeing something in the paper in the next 12 months? Is there anything outstanding of concern? I'm looking at Nicola here.
I don't, not from a Denbighshire perspective. What I would say is you know, we are very much a learning organisation, and we see complaints within that. And I was really proud to be approached last year by the Equality and Human Rights Commission, because they were wanting to do a national survey of the UK around social care complaints. And Denbighshire was approached to inform and advise them on their the data collection and the questions that they were to ask of all of the social services departments in the UK. And we were able to advise how that was undertaken, which has then informed a national report and review. So, you know, I think Denbighshire is recognised as a learning organisation, and not an organisation that is afraid or shies away from complaints, and that when we do receive them, we take them very seriously and we respond accordingly. So I hope that again gives you an extra level of assurance.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
There is a Your Voice report that comes to Scrutiny. Rianne, is it quarterly or is it every 6 months? There is a Your Voice report which covers all complaints that come into the council, but it comes as a written report rather than a presented report.
Yes, actually the latest one, it does come quarterly. The latest one was issued yesterday to members of this for information purposes, because I think at the moment all the thresholds are met, and it's an it's a threshold is of excellence. So because that is being met, it's currently being circulated as an information report. But in future, if members do have concerns after reading that report, they think that anything in their merit scrutiny, you know, please by all means raise it, and we can get it onto a scrutiny forward work programme.
Good.
Are there any more hands up? Do I see anything there?
I think David wants to come in on that. David's also joined us.
Can't not seeing the hands very clearly. David, you want to come in?
Thank you, Chair. I'll turn my camera off because I'm notoriously bad with the signal here. I think it's just worth a little bit of context as well. In addition to the 7 complaints that we had last year, we also had 193 letters from people saying what a wonderful service they'd had. So, you know, part of being a learning service is taking the complaints, but also the compliments, and seeing what you can do with those in order to improve your service. And I think that's just worth acknowledging.
Yes, thank you for those comments. And as Rhiann's explained, where we used to have the report brought by a lead member and officer to the scrutiny committee, which was deemed perhaps that it wasn't the best use of officer time sometimes, that now we have a written report which just came yesterday. So I think the message to members is to go through that report. If you've got a concern about anything you see there, to ask the question. And we could conceivably bring that particular issue to a scrutiny committee, couldn't we, Rhiann? Yeah. So we have plate statistics. Right. Thank you very much. I think that is your hand still up, Gareth, or is it an old hand?
No, it's a new hand, unfortunately. Just a quick one for Nicola. Which specific targets do you aim to achieve? Just a couple, specifically objectives, with some blue sky thinking in the next 12 months.
Recruitment and retention, you know, just on the previous discussion, that really is going to underpin all aspects of our ambitions for performance moving forward. So we've got to address that in order to be able to deliver on our other priorities. You know, each performance indicator, whilst important in its own right, is actually, it's the sum of all of it, which sets the direction of travel. And it's no good improving in one aspect at the detriment of something else. So for me, it is about how we ensure particularly our statutory provision is delivered, and that we have the sufficient staff to do that. And that also our approach to early intervention and prevention is as robust as it can be. So you know, I'm not just blue skies, Gareth. I'm every aspect of the rainbow. If there's an idea out there, if there's an opportunity, I'm absolutely open for trying it.
Okay, thank you ever so much to you and your team for a great report. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicola. Members, have you got any other areas you want to raise, or any areas? Oh, Jill. Yeah.
Hi, sorry, just to come in on that. I was going to say this at the end actually, but it seems to lead to that quite nicely, that as lead member meeting with the team and also reading this report, what's really struck me is that although there are these intense pressures on services, as Ellen and Nicola quite rightly have pointed out, to do with recruitment and retention, that there's a real admirable level of innovation going on and creative practice. So I'm thinking one example in the report is the work of the educare teams that goes on in adult and children's services. So although it's a battle to keep this, you know, the core offer going, I think what we need to be really proud of in Denbighshire is that, you know, that this isn't a team who are kind of just dealing with the slings and arrows of what's going on off the front line. They're looking forward to ways that services can improve. So the educare team is looking at early intervention to stop people moving into the position where they need services. So I just wanted to point that out, really, that's really occurred to me as I've been lead member, that, you know, that this isn't a team just dealing with the difficult things. It's really pushing forward to find new ways of doing things, and, you know, I think it's something we need to be really proud of in Denbighshire.
Thank you for those comments. So I'm going to move to recommendations. I don't think I've got any more questions. So that we consider whether the report provides a clear account of the performance in 2021/2022, and we consider whether the report raises any performance issues or concerns for further scrutiny. So I think we've looked at all the issues. I think we're happy there, right, members? There's nothing you want to particularly highlight for further scrutiny at this stage, is there? No, don't think so. Thank you. So could somebody move that recommendation for me? Paul has done that. Is it seconded? Carol's done that. All in favour? Fine. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Thank you, Nicola, and all your officers for the report and presenting it today. There's a huge amount of work clearly goes on in your directorate, and I think it must be just a major effort just producing the report itself, let alone doing the day job. So thank you very much. I presume we'll be getting a further report in another year's time, or is it?
It is an annual requirement that we produce the report.
Yes. So we'll look forward to that. And thank you very much for giving up the time today to meet the committee. Thank you everybody. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now to item 9, which is our scrutiny work programme, please. Yeah.
Diolch yn fawr iawn.
Thank you. Because we have a translator here, I'll make use of her. This is the usual scrutiny work programme. This will be the second one for you to have now since the election. The work programme itself is for the next meeting. That can be seen on page 415, sorry. Then that next meeting will be on the 29th of September, and you'll see there that there are 4 items. They're quite hefty items. The first one is on examination results, and that's a report that's been coming annually for a few years now. And as mentioned this morning in the discussion on the curriculum, that will not be exactly as it's been in the past, because they don't produce data to do with the results, but there will be some kind of report on achievements within the county presented to you. I'm expecting to hear whether the report on Havendeg in Rill if that will be available or not. If not, you'll have two other education reports, school categorisation according to Welsh medium provision, and the learner travel measure. So if you only have three, I think you'll have plenty to discuss, but you may have four. You have today contained two other reports, or three really, to be included in 12 months' time, so that will also be included in the work programme. The chairs and vice chairs group, the scrutiny chairs and vice chairs, are holding their first meeting on the 28th of July. We had to cancel or postpone the first one, which was due to held a month ago, because the chairs and vice chairs hadn't been appointed at the time. So at the end of this month, the chairs and vice chairs will be meeting. So if you have any item that you think would benefit being scrutinised, please complete the form in Appendix 2, send it to me as soon as you can, and then I will ask the chairs to consider it at that meeting. If you want any assistance with doing that, get in touch with me anytime. You'll see the Cabinet Forward Work Programme in Appendix 3 in case there's any item there that you feel might need looking at before it goes to Cabinet. And in Appendix 4, you'll see the latest on your recommendations from the last meeting. I don't think there's anything else to add today. Unless anybody's got any questions.
Any questions? No. So basically, if you identify an item.
Yeah.
Sorry, I heard a voice. Ellie.
Yeah.
You know, sorry.
Rian, I was wondering, what about Kevin D Enterprises? Is that in our programme for the next 12 months?
Yeah, Kemdy Enterprises, Kemdy Healthcare is down
Yeah.
24th of November.
Oh, right, fine. That's all right. I thought I'd jump in just in, a little bit of inspiration I get. But I'd love to see if there is a report from Havendeg, because I'm very interested, because that was my former ward.
Okay.
Up to 2017. So I am interested to know how they're getting on. Okay.
Gareth, have you got your hand up? Form, if there's something you want scrutinising or something that comes to mind, either put a form in, or if you prefer to do it, give Rihanna a ring or an email and she'll guide you through the process. Right. I just noticed, looking at the forward work programme, I better give Gareth some prior notice here that I actually, on September the 29th, we're actually away on holiday that week. So I just thought I'd mention it now, Gareth.
Wonderful. Would you believe my holidays booked for the same time? No. Or shortly will be. No.
Well, I'd appreciate it if you are able to keep that date clear. I have to say that we booked this holiday before we all knew what we were doing in this council year, so it wasn't deliberate. Fine, thank you. I think in that case, Rian, there's nothing else, is there? I just thank everybody for their attendance today. I think we've had four very big reports. There's been a lot of work in there. There's been a lot of reading. So thank you everybody for your support and your commitment. And we'll see you in due course. Thank you.
Yo.